So if you can hear me, please say something. Everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it
you can
is.
hear, but a little bit low. You can't hear me very well. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it is now clearer.
Nice, very good. Okay. So this is me again, Dr. Sameh, and this is the master class EA300B, and we're doing the other side of truth. By now, whether you belong to my class or you belong to my colleagues' classes, you may be halfway through the other side of truth. So let's talk about the other side of truth. If you have read the novel, raise your hand. If you're halfway through, also raise your hand. If you know one thing or two about it, also raise your hand. Okay? So Diane perhaps read the novel. How about the others? Don't have so many people. No, it's early morning, but that's fine. We're
I
recording
only
the
read.
class. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
only. I only read the summary, not the whole novel.
That's okay. But you still have time to read the whole novel because it's not that long, and because you would need it for perhaps close reading purposes. Because sometimes you have whether we're talking about the MTA or the final exam, you have a passage taken from the novel. So we still have time to read it. Let me share with you the format of the midterm exam. The midterm exam is, I think, in 2 weeks. When is the midterm exam?
In Oc- October 16.
Yeah, October 16th means that we still have next week, whether we're talking about regular classes or master class, and I think we will have also the week after, at least the regular classes of the week after. So next week, um, so if we meet in my class, for example, my regular class is on Monday, which means that I'll be able to meet you next week very comfortably. And I will be able to also meet you the week after, which is going to be the 14th. Again, you're saying that the midterm is going to be on the 16th. So from now, we still have 2 full weeks, and 2 full weeks is big. You can do a lot of things. And one thing that I would like you to do would be to read the novel. What did we say about the novel? We said that it's a very interesting novel, very relatable, and it's postmodern, not in its genre. The fact that it is a novel and it is a traditional one in terms of how it starts, how it develops, and how it ends. But it is postmodern in its themes and issues. The issues and the themes that it addresses are very much relatable, things that we uh, grapple with and encounter in our daily life. We talk about the idea of immigration. We talk about parents' responsibility towards their kids, society's responsibilities towards children and their agency, and why would they have to have agency at very tender and young age, because somebody may have failed them. That's why they have to take matters into their own hands and do stuff that um, we normally wait for some time before they are able to do. We wait for them to mature, and then they can take up responsibilities and stuff. But for them to take up responsibilities at a very young age um, means that something is wrong. And this is what we have been talking about in the other side of truth. The other side of truth is a very simple narrative. At its face value, it seems simple, but perhaps on uh, a more abstract level, it's very deep and very complex, I promise you. Um, Last time and in my classes, I broke down the novel into its basic components, talking about it as a novel, highlighting the different elements of a novel. And we saw together in my classes what those components are and how they are reflected in the novel. We spoke about the characters, and we said that it is true that we have adult characters, but uh, the novel is about children, and the main characters are children. And this is perhaps one way of, or one reason why we're putting it under the category of children's literature. So the themes and the concerns are very much about and for children. So it's in terms of characters, we have Sade and we have her brother. And of course, you know that they are Nigerian, but when we meet them in England. And of course, we get to know that they are seeking asylum or refuge in England. They, and if you're seeking asylum or refuge, it means that something is wrong. So you have issues or problems back home, what we found out about the fact that they are hunted and haunted by their government, the Nigerian government, because their father happens to be an investigative journalist, and he is exposing the corruption or the alleged corruption of the Nigerian government. So these are the two main characters, and of course, we have other characters, less important, but they help, kind of propel the action forward. You have the character of the father, you have the dead mother, you have an uncle, you have media people, um, and you also have, you know, lawyers, and so these are the characters, and those characters are normally when we talk about characters, we kind of classify them into dynamic or static, and we say that dynamic characters are those characters who have this capacity for change. They change over the course of the action. And this is what we have seen with Sade, especially the girl. The fact that you would expect her to be, you know, a young girl um, taken care of by loving parents, living, you know, the life of all the children in the world, going to school easily, doing her homework. But when we see Said and her brother, it's a different story. We see her struggling, we see her navigating the rules and regulations of the immigration rules and regulations of another country because she's seeking asylum in this other country. And we see her doing stuff that you would expect her parents to do, taking matters into her own hands, and that makes her, of course, different. So the Sade that we have impressions about, typical impressions about, is not the Sade that we know. It's only through the trials and tribulations that she go through, or that she goes through, that we have a totally different girl. She is perhaps a child or a girl in body, but in mind and mentality, she is grown up. She is wiser and even more mature than perhaps her father. So this is the capacity for change that we look for characters, and she lives up to those criteria. That's why we're saying that she is very dynamic. Her brother shows also signs of dynamism, but he's not, obviously, those are not full, and I mean, his role is not that big to for us to safely say that he is also dynamic. After all, he is a child. Again, the other characters are typical characters. They are there to support those main characters, to perhaps, they are also there for us to set those kinds of comparisons um, between them and the kids, and how they behave. For example, you have the character of the father, and you always compare him and what he does and what he doesn't to what Said is doing and what she does and what she sometimes refrains from doing. Um, this is in terms of characters. In terms of setting, we said that in terms of place, the action is between Nigeria and London, or UK, Great Britain, or the United Kingdom. Um, Typically, the children hail from Nigeria. They are Nigerian, and we have those moments in Nigeria where they their mother is assassinated for political reasons, and then their father decides that they have to kind of leave the country, or their life will also be at risk, like mm, the life of their mom. That's why they go all the way, or they travel all the way to London, and that's where most of the events will take place. So this is in terms of place. In terms of time, we're talking about the late 80s and the no, the late 90s and the early 20th century, 21st century. Uh, no, it's in 2000. Yes, in 2000, and this is that makes the novel um, and the time postmodern, with the issues and challenges that normally come to mind when we talk about the postmodern world, with its complications and complexities. And there's so many things that we as individuals have to navigate on a daily basis. Issues like wars, issues like absolutism and dictatorships, immigration, like I said, the media and the evolving role of the media, and the fact that media is now um, forced to reckon with. So these are things that we need to think of every time we talk about the element of time, in which is obviously part of the sitting in the other side of truth. And then you have the point of view and the perspective from which the narrative is given. And we said that it is a third person narrative, where obviously it's omniscient or perhaps semi omniscient narrative, third person narrative, where you have the he and the she and the they. So we're not given the narrative from the perspective of one of the characters who is saying I, for example, because with the I, you have a limited perspective. You see things from the perspective of one single character, and this can be a little bit limiting and restricting. So we don't have that. It is true that the narrative is traditional, but it is also true that it is third person narrative where uh, you are allowed to come up with your own conclusions about the characters. You are also allowed um, to, come up with your own assessments. Again, this is happening, and also um, we have things assessed from the perspective of the young girl Sade. So it is true that she is not the first person narrator who says, I did this or I think that, but it is also true that part of the impressions we have about other characters is given through her, is given through her character and how she looks at people and their behavior and their actions. Um, and then the plot. And the plot is also very simple. You don't have subplots, for example, that can distract you or take your attention away from the main plot. And it's as simple as who can give us the plot? Who can retell the story in very simple terms? No one? Are you still asleep or something? Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you.
Okay. So now that you have read a summary of the novel, Yalayan, do you still remember what happened, when, and how, and by whom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share that with us?
Okay. Um, the beginning. The beginning. In the beginning, the girl um had, was and she maybe she was remembering, and she has memories of her mother's dying, and 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 that she and her brother ha- have to go to London because of their father's rebellious action towards the Nigerian government, because it is a dictator. Uh, Yeah, there is a dictatorship in the Nigerian government, and and um, and she's older than her brother. She's 12, and her brother is 10 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the girl, her name is Shade, and her brother, Fema, Fema, uh,
Femi?
what was his what was his name? Fema,
Femi.
yeah, and and uh, and it's supposed that um, and, sup- and when Yeah, when they travel to London by by a plane, and there was I don't remember much of the names. I don't remember all the names of the characters, but there was a woman that she's supposed to, that that maybe she was waiting for them at the airport in uh, in uh, in London, but but uh, but she abandons them, and also the beginning, their uncles, the children's uncle, um, convinced their father to um, to to go to London and leave Nigeria. Am I right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Mm,
but when they arrived in London, their uncle. Their uncle wasn't there in the beginning, but a woman that awaits for them, and and she, she and she was and she was supposed to take them with her, but she abandons them. Am I right?
yes, you are right.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and if it's if you don't feel comfortable to continue, that's fine. I mean, uh, again, yeah, we're in London now, and things will get complicated because of the papers and the documents that they have, and those that they don't have. And then they are going to be asked about the immigration office, and they have to go here and there, and then they are going to be put in schools where they are going to be bullied, and then the father and the threat of deportation, and then finally they make it through, excuse me, through the media. The fact that they will be given access through the media to present their case and to defend their father and to warn the government, obviously the English government, against deporting him, because if they deport him, he may be killed and executed back in Nigeria. So it's a win situation for them. They at the end they get kind of reunited with their father, and a lot of media coverage will be given to them, and they seem to have made it eventually at the end. So the start or the beginning wasn't that bright, was not that promising, but the end is very hopeful, against a world that is very miserable, as you see, a world where there is a great deal of injustice. Uh, so the novel ends on a hopeful note. Um, so this is as far as the elements of a novel as applied to the other side of this is are concerned. Again, I said that in terms of genre, it is a novel and it is a traditional one. But in terms of themes and ideas, it's very postmodern and very the issues are very contemporary issues. Um, some ideas come out of the conversations that we have been engaged in when it comes to the other side of truth. And again, it's about the role of the media. It's about parents and their responsibilities, and whether they live up to those responsibilities and they fulfill them, or perhaps they fail their kids. We also spoke about the idea of cultural literacy, and this is something that Naidu herself is putting a huge premium on, the idea that her readers who are predominantly white, who are predominantly English, and who are predominantly children um, need to change. Their outlook has to change. Their perspective has to change. What is it that she wants to change about them? She wants to change their mindset. Their mindset is all about living a life of privilege, not caring or even not knowing about other cultures and other people, not knowing about them, let alone knowing about their miseries and their sad state of affairs. So, what she is hoping to achieve by writing novels like The Other Side of Truth is that they can feel for other people from other cultures, children like them in Nigeria, in Asia, because it seems that they don't even know that other people exist, that they cannot sometimes even distinguish between a country and a continent. So this is what she is referring to as cultural literacy. She is trying to make them literate about current affairs, and not English current affairs, because obviously she wouldn't be doing anything, because that can be left for schools and that teach about their history and about their geography. She wants it to be extended beyond their borders. She wants them to learn about other cultures and other people, and then start to appreciate what kind of life those people live, and perhaps reach out to them and feel for them, feel empathetic towards them and then their calamities and adversity. So this is uh, the cultural literacy project that he has been aiming to and aiming to achieve. And that would bring also us to this idea of delight and instructions, or instruction, I'm sorry, without S. This seems to have always been the goal of literature, to delight and also to kind of educate and inform us. Um, and the debate is or has always been about which of them is outweighing the other. You have sometimes you have literary works where the focus is exclusively on delight and entertainment. And you have other literary works where the focus is exclusively on educating the reader. And sometimes you have works that combine both. Where does Naidu stand with this? Obviously, she does both. She entertains us by giving us a story, a nice one, relatable perhaps, and she also instructs us, or she educates us, not us, but perhaps the English reader. Um, she tries to educate the reader and raise his and her awareness about other cultures and other people, I mean, issues other than those that the reader has in his country and in his town. So this is perhaps why we're saying that perhaps the instruction part is more than the delight part in the other side of truth. Um, so it's media that we sometimes need to think of every time we talk about the other side of truth. It's parents and their responsibilities. It's the society and its responsibilities. These are also things that we need to think of every time we talk about the other side of truth. Um, and also the idea of truth itself is given prominence in the novel. When I talk about truth, I talk about either telling the truth or withholding the truth. So if you tell the truth, you are sincere, you are honest. But if you withhold the truth, it means that you lie. And obviously, this is the complete opposite of being honest. What we're learning from this novel is that you have this quantum and you have this, when it comes to truth, you have a range. It's not about being totally honest, and it's not about being totally dishonest. Between those two extremes, you have levels and degrees. Um, and sometimes it's easy to talk about the truth in the abstract, not in reality. And this is obviously what we learn at school. This is perhaps what our parents tell us. You need to tell the truth um, no matter what. You need to be uncompromising about telling the truth. This is what we learn. But in reality, and when we meet with people and we are put in real situations, sometimes you need to be strategic. You need to maneuver a little bit. You need to withhold the truth momentarily because you're aiming at a bigger thing. Sometimes you withhold the truth for a nobler cause. So these are tests that you are put in and that you go through in real life. Okay, not these are not textbooks. These are not things that your parents tell you about. This is not theory. Okay, so those truthful statements that we are given back at school and with our parents are tested in the novel. And sometimes those principles fail. If you uphold them in real life, you may uh, risk your life and the life of others. So truth telling is tested in the novel like it has never been tested. And we come up in the novel with the idea that truth telling is beautiful and everything, but sometimes uh, um, on the ground, uh, the reality is different, and you need to think and you need to be strategic about telling the truth if that would mean risking your life or the lives of others. This is one of the issues that the novel is grappling with. Again, truth and truth telling, when and why and how. Okay. So these are some of the issues that the novel addresses itself to. Let me see if, because I wrote some notes here. See, of course, I spoke to you about the things that I expect you to read and study on your own, and I even divided them into, um, instead of having like 25 or 30 pages, um, and they are all in PDF. And I have taken the PDF itself and I divided it into themes and ideas. And I don't know, I think I shared it on the WhatsApp group that we have. Let me see if I can share that again. So these are the things. I'm sharing my stuff now, right? Can you see them? Okay. So this is an introduction about the whole thing. And the introduction uh, is more about Naidu and about the novel in general, when it was published, and stuff like that. So this was the introduction, and this is something that you have read. It's not very long. It introduces you to the essays that the file has, the PDF file, or that part has. So this is the introduction, and then you move on to the historical background. And here, obviously, there is talk about a number of things. There is talk about Naidu herself and her ancestry and how she came to South Africa, as she is obviously the the granddaughter of European immigrants who came to South Africa. She's white, she is Jewish, and there is talk about this and how that would contribute towards who she is. There is talk about the scramble for Africa, which happened in the 19th century. And like I said, Naidu's parents, not parents, and their grandparents happened to be part of that. And then we get to know even about Naidu and her political activism and how she was imprisoned on a number of occasions for speaking out against apartheid in South Africa, and how she wanted to also liberate the majority Africans, the African majority. So much so that at one point, like I said, she was imprisoned, and then she was asked to leave the whole country and go and live in Great Britain as an exile. This is her background, and we also have the background to the novel, and it seems that this background inspired Naidu to write. The background is also about the political activism um, and the rebellion of some Nigerian figures who wanted Nigeria to, kind of become perhaps more liberated. They, at one point, people thought that if the white colonizer leaves, everything would be good, and the country, or the colonized country, will be left to its own people, and life is going to be greener, and there is going to be democracy and prosperity. But obviously, this did not happen. In our case, in Nigeria, for example, um, the ruling government is a military dictatorship. So there hasn't been much of a change. You changed the white colonizer with a black colonizer, somebody who speaks your language, who has the same skin color, but sometimes is even fiercer and even worse than the white colonizing. And this is what have been happening in Nigeria. And we have the example of a freedom fighter and a community organizer who who spoke out about the government only to be imprisoned, and then eventually they execute him. So it is this incident, the imprisonment and the killing of this uh, uh, Nigerian intellectual by the name of Ken Saru Wiwu. It's the killing and the execution of this Nigerian leader that gave Naidu the inspiration. Because part of what Said's father is doing as an investigative reporter is to investigate how and why Ken Sawiwu was executed. And obviously, he was executed on a trumped up charges. Um, so this is the inspiration that uh, Naidu got, uh, and again, her upbringing in Nigeria, in South Africa during the apartheid era also was part of the inspiration. So this is one of the essays that you also need to read. And then you have um, the idea of why. Why is Naidu writing this novel? And obviously, she is writing what uh, Nadine Gordimer before her referred to as witness literature. Witness literature is this kind of literature that kind of documents events, political events, and comment on them, and perhaps provide support to one side uh, in them. So she is, kind of stands in this long line of witness literature. Um, and she has a message. Again, does it mean that the instruction part is bigger in her mind than that of the light? Of course, you cannot give instruction and you don't expect the messages that you give through this instruction to get out to people unless you provide that in a delightful way. Delightful way means that you present it in literature, for example, because literature is unique. Literature is not direct. So there is delight in terms of the fact that this is a novel meant to also entertain. But there is more, even more so, we have instruction and we have messages. She is trying to educate her English readers. She is trying to tell them that there is more to life than just England. There is more to life than the privileges that they are enjoying, having access to free education, having access to water and food, living in a democracy, being able to voice out your opinions, and talking about issues and criticize the government, and nobody asks you why you're doing that. So she's trying to say that there is obviously this is fine and good, but you shouldn't limit your scope to that. You need to also remember that on the other side of the fence, there are other people in other countries, and they don't have what you have, and they want, sympathetic ears. They want people to share with them what they feel. They want people to even speak for them and for their cause. So again, she is stressing what she calls cultural uh, awareness or cultural literacy, raising the awareness of her English readers about the existence of other races and other peoples in other parts of the world. So this is what she is doing, and I think she did that with a great measure of success because she received letters from people from other parts of the world, from the US, for example, where people or readers in schools who are reading her work as part of their syllabus and curriculum. They said very nice stuff, and how what she said and what she wrote was very, it struck chords, sensitive chords with them, and they are now more aware than ever about the plights of other people, and the fact that there are dilemmas and catastrophes in other parts of the world. So she could somehow take them away from their comfort zones. She disturbed them, but in a positive way. She uh, um, um, kind of shook them so that they can realize that they don't live alone in this world. There are other people in other parts of the world. So if you cannot help them materially, at least you need to feel that they exist. At least you need to sometimes ask your government to help them, to speak for them. And this is the cultural literacy that she has always been trying to promote among her readers. And then you have talk about the novel itself and what we mean by truth and what we mean by the other side of truth. So there is this talk about truth um, with capital T, and then you have small truths, if you like, where uh, absolute truth is something that perhaps we don't need in the contemporary world. We need practical truth. We need truth that would save. We need strategic truth sometimes. We need, we don't need theory. So for parents to tell their kids, yeah, you shouldn't be telling but the truth. You should be, you shouldn't lie at all, and under no circumstances should you be pushed to tell a lie. What Naidu is trying to say here is sometimes this is very rigid, and this is not. These are things that can even uh, uh, risk people's life. So there is obviously nothing wrong with telling your kid to be truthful and honest all the time, but you need to also tell him for her, or her for that matter, that sometimes if I mean, the situations can vary, and you need to use your discretion sometimes. And this is what is happening with Shade, um, and especially in this part about whether to tell the real name of her father and reveal his identity or not. And she had to grapple with this issue because she always remembers what her mother used to tell her about truth and the fact that she shouldn't be compromising with truth, and also what her father is saying about that part. So eventually, um, um, one of the messages would be to think twice, whether we're talking about parents or schools, about what kind of education you're giving to children. Uh, um, you need to kind of uh, um, teach theory alongside with practice. You put perhaps children in situations where they have to experiment with truth. And I think I was referred at one point by a good friend of mine very recently to a book by Mahatma Gandhi, and I think the title was My Story, and the subtitle was My Experiments with Truth. And he was hinting at those situations. Of course, you know, Mahatma Gandhi is a great leader, very inspirational, but he himself is acknowledging the fact that sometimes you have to maneuver with truth telling if you have a nobler cause. So it's about strategy, and it's about knowing when to say the truth and when to momentarily withhold it for a nobler cause. Um, so this is very interesting, and this is one of the issues that the novel is addressing, and addressing very forcibly, the idea of truth. What else we have? Um, we have issues, like I said, the idea of media, for example, and the role of media. And obviously, media is now related like it never did, or it never has been, with truth, media and truth, because this is part of the role of media to promote truth and to expose falsehoods and corruption. So the role of the media is promoted. Of course, the positive role of the media, because sometimes media has such a corrupting influence on people and on the masses. So we're talking about the benign role of media. And again, media is presented here as a platform, or perhaps a number of platforms that give voice to the voiceless, if you like. Um, it should, it is, and it should always be a platform that expose falsehoods and corruption, and also a platform that supports causes, nobler causes, providing a safety net for perhaps whistleblowers, people who would like to come out and reveal the truth about something here and there. So this is uh, the media. This is what, or the roles of the media that Naidu is hoping to have happening in societies. And this is what uh, um, is happening in the novel itself, where Said is going to take advantage of that, and media will eventually help her and her family uh, um, be safer, um, achieve what they were hoping for, having this asylum status that they have been looking for. Media will help her kind of reunite, um, and all her family will come together. Uh, and in order to do that, Naidu, in a very indirect way, is giving us the different types of media, and media in and its and their roles in different countries. So if you think of media back there in Nigeria, you will find that it is a tool and an instrument of control in the hands of the Nigerian government, that then we're talking about that time, and how it can spread rumors about political activists. It can turn the masses and people against them. It can portray them in the in bad uh, light, so that people turn against them. So in places like Nigeria, uh, um, media is controlled by the government, and media people are not free to say what they want to say. And if they do, like in the case of the father of Said, they get persecuted, they get assassinated. The best they can do is to kind of escape and flee from the country altogether. You would compare this sad state of affairs when it comes to the media in Nigeria to what happens in Britain, where media is freer, where people can use the platform, the media, and its different platform, their different platforms to promote their causes, to speak out against corruption, to defend the rights and the rights of others. So it's a totally different landscape back there in England. So we're having those comparisons, and eventually the message would be that media is and should be uh, um, a platform where people can speak freely, where people can promote their noble uh, causes, where people can feel safe, that nobody is going to hunt and haunt them after they reveal secrets, and they reveal um, truth, or the truth about this or that institution. So the role of media is very important in the other side of truth. And the article is all about that. I think this is the end of that. Again, there is also this talk, or perhaps what comes out of all of that is the idea of um agency, child agency. The fact that when everybody fails you, if you're a child and everybody and all the institutions fail you, you have to go out of your way and take matters into your own hands. And this is exactly what Sade did in the novel. She took matters into her own hands. She had to um, perhaps overlook and ignore what her mother and father used to tell her about truth telling and being very absolute in her attitude towards the truth. And she's going to try to bend with the wind, if you like. She has to try to be strategic in giving or in withholding the truth. She learned that if she has a noble or a nobler cause, so truth can sometimes wait. And this is exactly what she did on a number of occasions. Um, Rigid upbringing, which is primarily based on theory, doesn't sometimes work. Remember what she did, for example, when she was bullied uh, at school, for example. She had to succumb to this kind of bullying eventually. At the beginning, she was very uh, um, kind of assertive in not kind of succumbing to this kind of bullying and to bullies, and she was very uncompromising. She was facing up to them. But when it came to her brother and she felt that her brother will be hurt in the process, she decided to compromise and follow what the bully is telling her. Again, it's a number of things. It's again the idea of when to stand up to stuff and when to momentarily decide that it is in the best interest of yourself and other people that you relent for perhaps momentarily. This is what she learned. And also, it shows us that she is taking up the responsibility that her parents left for her. I mean, taking care of her child, rather making sure that his welfare is kept and promoted no matter what. um, Again, on the other hand, what she does and the agency that she is showing can always be compared to the irresponsibility of the father and the mother sometimes, especially the father who landed them all in all those kinds of dangers through his perhaps what people refer to as recklessness. So facing up to the government for a noble cause, exposing them and their corruption is a good thing. But he should know that um, if you're vulnerable and if the only thing that you have is your pen and you are within the ranks and in the country, they can easily imprison you. And who is going to pay the price of that? Obviously, it's the kids and also the wife. Remember, she got assassinated. So sometimes facing up to danger, facing up to corruption, for all the beauty that um, it it can mean, is not the right thing to do if you're not choosing the right time to go ahead and do it. So this is one of the issues. You can always, perhaps what is ironic is that we're comparing the wisdom of the child, said the daughter, to the recklessness of the father. The father obviously didn't care very much, or perhaps he didn't. I mean, obviously he didn't consult with his kids, and obviously um, the whole novel and what happened to them in London is the cause of and the consequences of his miscalculations. So this is one of the themes that the novel also grapples with very forcibly. Okay. Do you have any questions? No questions? Okay. Type. We're not so many. I hope that perhaps by next time, when you have read the novel fully, when you have attended the other or the rest of the classes on that, you will have ideas that we can share. You will have questions that I can try to answer next time when we meet in next week's master class. So on this note and with this item, we'll come to the end of today's master class. Thank you so much. Salam alaikum.
Thank you, Professor.
وعليكم